Well, Michael, you said at the top of the show, man, we keep talking about Concord more now than it was actually here. So here we go. Sony's Concord reportedly cost $400 million to develop. That is absolutely insane, and I don't believe it. Jordan Miller over at VGC. PlayStation recently delisted first-person shooter Concord, reportedly cost $400 million to develop. Not a chance. That's according to PlayStation podcast Sacred Symbols, which claims that the game, which was recently taken offline by PlayStation after just 2 weeks on sale, was referred to as the future of PlayStation internally. Sony offered refunds to all players who purchased the game. The report also claims that a culture of toxic positivity shut down any potential pushback to the game's direction internally. The game's director reportedly stood down last week, according to Kotaku, citing 3 sources familiar with the move. In the publication says Ellis was emotional when initially speaking to the staff after the game's launch, when it was clear that it was going to be a major failure. Dude, that's a shot in the gut, but at the end of the day, right? Quote, Ryan deeply believed in the project and bringing players together through the joy in it, end quote. One former developer told Kotaku, quote, regardless of there being things that could have been done differently throughout development, he's a good man, or a good human, and full of heart, end quote. Earlier this month, Sony announced plans to take Concord offline, pull the game from sale. Man, I've never seen it. And offer refunds to all players who bought it. Just 2 weeks after the news followed reports that the PlayStation 5 and PC game may have sold as much as a whole 25,000 copies. Michael.
Oh, yeah, not good, not good. I'm with you. I don't believe that 400 million figure to develop, right? Now, if you told me over the entire scope of the game, the 8 years, including acquiring Firewalk Studio, they're in the new video game series, Secret Level, I think, that comes out. There has been rumored to be a Concord episode. The money that probably Sony spent on that to make sure that was in that game, I can see all of those figures adding up to $400 million, right? But that's not in development. That's acquiring a studio. That's putting it in a game show. That's the assets to do that. So I can see that number being all that. We twisted a little bit to say, oh, that's what it costs to develop. I think at the end of the day, you and I have talked about this to death. I think the biggest figure from this entire Concord saga is the 8-year number that comes out. When your game is in development for 8 years, it feels like you either had to have major restarts or something. There's no way what we got after 8 years was the vision they had. So I'm curious what the official number is. I'm curious. You and I have kind of also curious. Does this game come back at free to play? If it does, I know there was hype at the start. I don't think we're going to get it, but that would maybe recoup some of that money, whatever it is. But yeah, this is going to go down in the history books. I think if there was ever a video game class at college that talked about failures, Concord would be the poster child. It is absolutely wild that everything happened, but I'm with you. That 400 million number, that feels like something made up to keep dunking on Concord. I have no way in believing that this is, I think more than GTA 5? Not a shot.
No, not a chance. Dude, there's no chance that it costs this much. No. Not unless you rolled in the price of purchasing the studio and this, that, and the other, like just said, right? So we've also heard rumors that it was like 200 million to develop the game. Yeah. Over the cost of 8 years, dude, I'm much more online with that than this 400 million. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. But again, I don't know the internals. I don't see Concord ever coming back, and I don't see Firewalk actually lasting either. I think Sony closes the studio down, and I think we're only about a week to 2 weeks from here in layoffs and the studio being shut down, unfortunately.